Hello and welcome to Differential Discussions. I'm Melissa,
And I'm Dave.
and today we're still talking about leukemias. We're still talking about myeloid leukemias. We're going to talk about monocytic leukemias.
Yep. And we chose to kind of start on this cell here, which looks like some kind of an immature-ish mono. I think there's enough flags here to kind of make me think mono. And then given what the label on the slide says, I'm kind of leaning towards like a pro-mono. So I think typically when we talk about the maturation, especially of like something like a neutrophil, there's a lot of categorization on the in-betweens, on the extremes, right? We start with blast to pro-myelo, etc. For the monocytic lineage, it's a mono, it's a blast, or it's in between. And so we call those in-betweens our pros. So I mean, pro-mono, we're looking for nucleoli, right? What do you think, Melissa?
Yeah, so the maturation, like Dave was saying, is monoblast, pro-monocyte, monocyte. And so when we're debating, usually blast or blast, right? So monoblast will still be blasty. Pro-monos are usually a little bit stretchier, a little bit bigger than blasts. They have more characteristics of monos. It's just their chromatin pattern is less mature, and they usually have a nucleoli that you can see, which monos don't usually, but occasionally monos can be tricksy little things and show you a nucleoli, but not usually. So this guy is kind of weird because he's stretchy. Stretchiness makes us think pro-mono or mono. Right? And then of course he's got granules in the cytoplasm, which is usually pro-mono or mono, not usually monoblast. And then the only thing is this guy has, it looks like 3 nucleoli. Like there's one there, there's one here. It looks like this is a kind of a remnant-y of one right over here.
What's a remnant? Have we talked about remnants before?
I don't know if we've talked about a remnant. So a remnant is a nucleoli that's kind of closing up, shutting down shop. Remember, nucleoli is where the DNA is unwound and it's going through the process of being made into RNA. So it's closing up shop. That one is not really doing the process anymore. So it's stopping the process and becoming a remnant, and then eventually it goes away. But the other two look like distinct, clear nucleoli. Pro-monos don't usually have this many nucleoli, even in leukemias, but I'd say it has more characteristics of a pro-mono than anything.
That's what I would think too. Yeah, I'd want to see more development, I guess would be the word, out of the nucleus to say mono. Cytoplasmic, the cytoplasm is pretty mono, right? Like that's the other thing when you talked about like the granularity and things, but the nucleus has got a little bit more growing up to do. Yeah. Cool.
Before I move, just to point out, there's 2 platelets on top of a red cell.
There's lover platelets hanging out together on the beanbag. Yeah. Okay. So it's good to have a contrasting, like a mature monocyte in the bottom right here, right? And we have the neutrophil in the top left, just for completeness here. But yeah, we see a mono that's kind of like a little bit like low, the pleomorphic nucleus, right? And then we see like dark clumping in here as well. So a nice, happy, normal looking mono.
Yep.
You could see the size difference too, huh? In the overall cell size.
Yeah.
Even though we are getting a little thicker.
Yep. I started out a little bit thicker in this one, just because I felt like the monos were a little bit. Monos were a little bit better in the thicker area, but we could always go a little bit thinner too.
So I'm looking for nucleoli, right? I think that's your eyes kind of going for too.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, there might be a nucleoli or 2 or or 3. But like I do like that this nucleus is kind of like, like folding and kind of not as stretchy.
There might be one here.
Yeah.
I think that's where my eye was going, or maybe like right there.
What about to the first one that you pointed out? Go to the left of that.
Like this?
Yeah, I was looking at that. Yeah.
It kind of just looks like a striation.
Could be the way. So yeah, so another thing too is like when we think about a nucleus and the chromatin wrapped around histones and how it's packaged and everything, you do have Melissa used the term striations, right? So I think like string, and depending on how a nucleus like this is folded and how the cell is oriented in space, you can get visually it can appear a lot of different ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
I personally think that I would call this a mono.
I think so too. I think it's too mature. The chromatin pattern is way more mature than that first cell that we saw.
Definitely. Agreed. Okay. What's up, fella?
What are you, little guy?
So I see like the cell size is kind of small, and I don't think it's a lymphocyte, but that's one of the things I want to make sure that it's not before I say anything.
Because of the size and because of the NC ratio.
Yes.
I'm sure a bunch of people went, it looks like a lymph.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that just looks like it's a mono, I suppose. Yeah.
You just all.
Yep. Yep. I buy mono on that one. Yep.
Yeah, me too.
Interesting. A lot of color in this one, huh? Right? So this looks like it might be some kind of an immature granulocyte.
Yep.
Myelometa.
Yeah. I would probably go with meta because it looks like it's in between the two.
Yeah. Yeah. Rounding up for sure. It's always safe.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is another thing. There could be immature grands in a slide like this. It's not.
Yeah, because this is supposed to be purely monocytic.
Right.
But sometimes you have the immature grands.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So when we talk about the maturation of the nucleus from blast into mono, we're going to start with a round nucleus, and as it matures, it's going to kind of fold and bend. So for me, I'm seeing a mostly-ish round kind of nucleus. So that tells me to kind of think pro-mono, but it looks a bit clumped too, doesn't it? Look a little bit grown up. Yeah. And then I don't see prominent nucleoli. So I think this is a monocyte.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Because not all monos have a pleomorphic nucleus.
I want them to, but they don't listen to me.
It makes our life easier.
It would make my life a lot easier. Yeah, same, I think.
Yeah, and this one's nice and pleomorphic.
Yep.
It almost looks like he's flexing.
Yep. Hello. What up, lymphocyte?
So that's a lymph.
He's got a little piece of cytoplasm.
And is that I was just trying to look at and see if it was a cytoplasm or a platelet.
True. Could certainly be a platelet. Yeah.
I think it's cytoplasm though, because it looks like he has a couple of those little pink granules in there that lymphs sometimes have. I think it is his cytoplasm.
It's a lymph.
But it's a lymph. So remember the other one we were wondering if it was a lymph? This one's, see, this is a nice small resting lymph as compared to the other one.
Right. Yeah, this gives you more confidence in that call, right? Like, yeah,
Yep.
like, yeah. Yeah. Mono.
Looks like a mono.
Cool. So I just want to say that neutrophil is quite pale. Needs a little sun or something. What do you think? Like,
Very pale. I wonder if it's hypogranular.
mm,
I don't think it's agranular, but probably hypo.
and then next to it, I would say the mono looks a little strange, right? The one on the right. But I would still say it's a mono.
I agree.
Yeah.
The chromatin pattern doesn't look quite as mature as some that we have seen, but it also it doesn't look as immature as the promonos we have seen.
Right. Yeah. I kind of expected to see more promonos, but
It depends on the patient.
Yeah.
It also depends on the subtype of monocytic leukemia. Because some monocytic leukemias are purely monoblastic and some are monocytic, so that you get you get the maturation sequence, so you do see the promonos.
That's a good point. Yeah, we're still in categories that are a little bit, well, I don't want to say, because like M3 is a pretty narrow classification, but things like this can encompass a lot of different mutations and combinations, right? Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good point.
And then this guy just looks like another mono.
Yeah.
And look, he's got very pleomorphic. It's like he's got a big finger, a little finger, and little finger.
You see like a hand or something. Yeah.
It almost looks like a baseball glove. Like the thumb being right in here in the vacuole.
It's like looking at clouds, right? Looking at cells. See what you want to see, I guess.
Why don't I go to a little bit thinner of an area?
Sure.
Ooh.
So seeing two cells next to each other. Class, what do we think of when we see cells like smushed together like this?
Loss of contact inhibition.
Yes, very good. So that's good. Good to think about in the context that this is a malignant patient.
So this guy, this one on the left,
I'm
trying to debate if there are nucleoli in there.
Yeah. And again,
Like
the nature of a mononucleus makes it even more difficult because they kind of bend and fold around. It almost looks like there's a smiley face in there. Do we have a category of cell for smiley faces?
Happy cell.
Yeah, for me personally, and that might be a little bit careless of me, but I would generally go to mono unless it punches me in the face and tells me.
I think they're both monos.
Yeah.
This one actually looks like the chromatin is a little bit less mature.
I see that as well. So why would you say that? Why would
because there's less areas of like the darker chromatin that you can see in here. Absolutely. But also, if you look at the one on the right, this one, the purple is more evenly stained throughout, and the more consistent the purplyness it is throughout the nucleus, the younger it is usually, because remember, blasts are supposed to be very immature. It's that nice light purple. Remember, we talked about it in a different video, kind of thinking about it looking like static, but purple and white static, especially in some blasts. And I'm seeing like it looks very immature here, much lighter, much more evenly stained as compared to this one.
Yep, absolutely. So this will be a reflex to someone as their competency develops. You see that darkness like right away. It's like subconscious. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
I think he's just a mono.
Yep. And so immediately the gerbil on the wheel for us is like, are there nucleoli, right? You're looking for that. But like this is the horseshoe mono, right? This
Characteristic.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Oh. So a little unusual to see a dark line like that. But it looks like it's like folded and we're getting those two tiers. So I think we talked about this a little bit when we talked about M3 in the butterfly nucleus.
Yeah.
But like intuitively, we can kind of tell that there's a difference in elevation between those two sections of the nucleus.
Yeah, and we're talking about right here.
Yeah, yes.
So you can tell that this one looks like it's on top.
Mhm.
And that one looks like it's like squished underneath. So that you just see a piece of it's kind of sticking out.
And I'd say that's somewhat unusual for me to see in a mono, but
yeah, although they're pleomorphic.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll like squish and make shapes and do things. So
the other thing too, I mean, monos are 5% or less, and often less, right, of the diffs that we do day to day. So we literally don't see a ton of monos.
normal monos.
Normal monos, yeah.
This one, my eye really went to that. But
Okay.
I don't know if it's quite
As
prominent as I want it to be.
Yeah. Yep. So we have some nucleoli. So again, could this be a pro mono or came out of pro mono like recently? It's plausible.
I think it's more of a mono though.
Yeah.
The rest of the nucleus.
Yeah, I like carrying the philosophy of rounding up, kind of applying it here as well. I think is relevant. I think there's also something to be said for what is the clinical relevance of distinguishing between pro monos and monos. And I think if you see one, that says enough about what may or may not be going on.
Well, I think that depends on the institution.
Certainly.
Because some institutions call pro monos and some just lump them under monos and say that there's immature forms present.
True.
So for all the students out there, they must learn what a pro mono is, because you don't know what institution you're going to work at.
Yeah, and I think it's always better to know the more hard procedure, and then it's easier to have to default to an easier.
Yeah, procedure. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it looks dark to me, and I'm thinking mono on this one.
Yep.
Yeah. Ooh. See that? I don't want to say it's a hole punch.
No, I think it's folded weird.
Yeah, that's yeah. It looks like it's just a product of how it's folded. And coincidentally, is round.
Yeah, I know. At first, I was like, "Ooh, is that too the same thing?" But so what we're looking at is wondering if this is like a whole ring, and it's like all connected, and if this is literally like a hole punch in the center of it. But it looks like there's some folds in here, in this area, maybe even right over there, some over here. So it looks like it's just pieces kind of folded on top of each other.
And that, correct me if I'm wrong, that's kind of like a dysplastic kind of a finding if we were to have seen it here, which it is not present. But
correct. Yeah, that would be dysplasia, but this is just folds.
Neutrophil.
Another hypogranular.
Yeah, he's light, definitely on the light side. What do you think? It's hard for me to tell, to be honest.
I think he's just a mono.
Yeah.
It's not as the nucleus is not as mature as some of them, but it's more mature than some of the others.
I think statistically we got kind of lucky with finding that pro mono like right at the start.
I know. And so just for reference, this is the mono we were just discussing,
Yeah.
and this is just a neutrophil.
Neutrophil.
And that one actually isn't bad. Like you can actually see the granules.
That one looks much more, yeah, much closer to our norm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of those other neutrophils don't have like even a texture to them really. Yeah, more mono.
Yep. All right, let's see if I can find anything. No.
Yeah.
I think it's just a mono.
Agreed.
Ooh.
Okay. So it's not the nucleus isn't particularly dark. We have a nucleoli.
Nice prominent one.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think this may be a pro mono.
Cool.
The other thing, he's not as basophilic as the first one that we saw, but he's still like a little bit stretchier than the other monos that we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of time pro monos are a little bit bigger, stretchier.
Agreed. Mono.
I think just a mono.
Yeah.
Now we're getting into pretty thin territory. Just quickly kind of scan by, see what we find.
Okay. I buy it.
He kind of looks soft.
That's to me, the texture immediately spoke to me. And I see a nucleoli in the bottom there. No?
Where, this one?
Low. Go left. Yeah, I was looking at that. Maybe I'm overseeing it on my side through Zoom, but
I think that's more ish, but I don't really see like a super prominent one. No.
Yeah, it's funny. The one you pointed to, I can't even really see anything on my side. Could be just the way the video is, you know.
I don't know. I don't. It doesn't have a nucleoli, but I think it's really soft enough to be a pro mono anyway.
That's to me, the texture of this one right away was like, that's young.
I guess the pro monos were in a little bit thinner of an area. I think he's a mono.
Yeah.
I can see some nucleoli looking things in there, but I still think it's just a mono.
And some of those striations like catch my eye, you know, but yeah.
Too mature.
Yeah, agreed.
This one's kind of in between pro mono and mono.
I know. I just there's no nucleoli though, right? Like that's the
yeah. But and there's areas of distinct like mono too in the nucleus. So it's kind of like I feel like it's in between. So I would go with a mono.
Mono, yeah, round up. Yep. So yeah, I'm not keeping tally, but I think we got most of these are monos.
Mono. monos and a couple pro monos.
A handful. Yep.
Why don't we end with this guy?
Sure.
He just looks like a mono.
Yeah, I think I see nucleoli, but it just looks really mature overall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mono. Other things I'm looking forward to in Luke's, I'm looking at like platelets and red cells and stuff. I don't see anything too crazy kind of standing out on that side, but
No, and platelets have looked pretty adequate.
yeah. If they're not close, they're pretty darn close. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, it looks pretty good. Excuse me. I know in some, well, usually at presentation, the acute leukemias will have thrombocytopenia and anemia. And this one, we obviously are not seeing thrombocytopenia right now, but we don't know where in the disease process this patient is either. So chances are the patient was, and then maybe got platelet transfusions or something. And so just because it's your slide is labeled acute leukemia doesn't necessarily mean you're going to see thrombocytopenia, because it depends where the patient is.
Where are they at? That's right.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, I think that's all we've got for this video. So thanks for watching.
Yeah. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell if you'd like notifications whenever we post a new video. And feel free to reach out to us on social media or via email with comments or suggestions about future content. Thanks.